Alright guys, let's talk about the Cold Steel Recon 1. Very popular knife, a lot of requests to show this. I actually obtained this through a trade a while ago now. I just haven't gotten to review it yet. But this specific one here, take it out of the box and show you. This is the clip point version of this knife. This comes in three different varieties as far as blade styles, and that is a clip point, as you're looking at right here. You have a spear point blade, and you also have a Tonto or Tanto design blade. And some of those models are also available in a combination edge, which means you have a little serrations on the bottom portion of the blade here. So this is just one version of this knife. Now, as you can see, this is not a small knife, even closed. It's I would definitely classify this as a large folding knife. You can see when I grip it, it's sticking out my hand both sides. It's not a small knife, it's a big guy. And speaking of size, let's go over some dimensions first. That blade you're looking at here is a Teflon coated 4-inch clip point blade. It's made of AUS 8A stainless steel. Of course, I've mentioned that, talked about this steel in the past. Very commonly used. People tend to like it. It's an affordable steel. It does perform fairly well if heat treated properly. I believe cold steel does heat treated properly. Unless you're getting this knife from a no-name company, most companies do a pretty good job on heat treating their steels. Not a super thick blade, but it's not thin either. It's 3.5 millimeters thick, which is pretty decent. I would definitely classify this knife in general as a very heavy-duty knife. Almost too much knife for most people. Again, I'll get a little bit more into that towards the end of the review. But anyway, there's the handles here are a black G10. Pretty aggressive texturing on this. I'll come in close and show you the texturing pattern. If you'll notice, it is a bunch of little tiny rectangles. And if I kind of get an angle a little bit, get the focus right, you can see they almost dip up. It's kind of like if you had, imagine this if this was flat and you took a chisel and just carved out just a little tiny curve. Well, there's obviously hundreds, if not thousands, of those little tiny curves that actually make up the design on the handle, which gives you that texture. All the little tops and corners are what's poking out, and that's what gives you that rough texture. I would say it's a pretty good texturing. It's not overly rough where it's going to irritate your skin by using it. However, it's not smooth enough where it's not doing anything. It's very good texturing for grip. When I talk about the pocket clip a little bit later, I'll mention that and having an aggressive texture underneath your pocket clip, not so good. Basically, that's just going to slow down your knife and taking it out of your pocket. It's obviously going to wear on your pocket a lot faster, okay, the material. So anyway, you get 4-inch blade, clip point, as I mentioned. The knife closed is 5 1/3 inches long. So again, it's not a small knife. It's definitely a big guy. Very heavy duty, heavy use knife. Full, if I can get the light right, you have full nested liners, which I can't really show you too well. Oh, I'll just come in close. That's all. See the silver in there, hopefully. You have, like I said, full stainless steel liners. They are not drilled out, or skeletonized. They're full slabs of stainless steel nested inside the G10. Cold steel doesn't necessarily worry about weight too much. They're very much obsessed with just really strong knives. And that's a good thing. You want to make your knife as strong as possible, especially a folding design. It's going to be susceptible to some weaknesses because it does have multiple parts on it. It is a folding knife. So to make it as strong as possible, it's a good thing. If you're worried about weight, this is not the knife for you. This weighs 5.6 ounces. Not tremendously heavy. It's not like, a big old brick or anything in your pocket, but it's not a lightweight. Like I said, just really kind of a heavy-duty, heavy-use knife. It's not really for everyone. If you really think about what you use your knives for, now I'm talking about if you're using your knives. If you're a knife collector, it doesn't really matter. But if you're carrying this day in and day out, you really want to think about what you're using your knife for. Now, if you're using your knife mostly to open your mail, open your mail, you're not going to need a big old knife like this. This is obviously advertised for some of our troops overseas, some military guys. Maybe if whatever workforce you're in, you really need a heavy duty knife. That's kind of where this is going as far as who it's made for. And like I said, not everyone really uses their knives very hard. To be honest, this knife is a little overbuilt for my purposes with a knife. Occasionally I get into some pretty pretty heavy use, but for the most part, I don't need a knife that's going to be able to take a lot of torque side to side, all kinds of stuff like that. It's not necessary in my specific purpose. But, hey, everyone's different. As far as price on this knife, I would say it's reasonable. It's listed as for $119, but obviously, as I mentioned in all my videos, you're not expected to pay full retail, unless, of course, you're ordering direct from Cold Steel. Generally, I found this between $60 and $70 online. Average price is about $65, and then obviously plus shipping, wherever you're ordering it from. So pretty reasonable. I would say for $65, AUS 8A, not bad at all. Pretty common price range for that steel. I would say, though, I personally would have liked to see Cold Steel maybe use their VG1 on this knife. I understand that price and materials there's always going to be some kind of compromise. You make something more affordable, you can't use the higher end stuff. However, hear me out on this. This is a very heavy duty knife. If you're someone who wants to pick up a very heavy duty knife, who's going to use it all the time and use it hard, wouldn't you want maybe a steel that has a better edge retention, better strength, more capability? Even if it ups the price, so be it. It's all part of what the knife's about. And like I said, maybe that's just my personal opinion. I would think if a soldier picked this up, I don't think he would have too many problems with it, but you don't really want to be, resharpening your blade all the time. And I find that AUS 8A stainless steel tends to be a little bit on the soft side. So just my personal opinion. I know Cold Steel has some pretty good steels in their arsenal, and they probably could have went a different route with this. But of course, that does affect the price. And for $60, this may appeal to a lot of people. Maybe if it was $100, $150, and not so many people. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's about, not entirely about sales, but I mean, they are a company, they are out to make a profit. That's what, most of it's about. Unfortunately, everything comes down to money in the end. But, to put out a good knife, good product like this, and to make it affordable for the general public, I mean, you're talking about the general people. Knife people are different. Knife guys sometimes get obsessed, and we'll put out, major moolah for some cool knives. But the general guy, the guy just walking into maybe a knife shop to pick up a knife for work, or maybe looking online for a knife for duty carry, no one wants to spend a whole bunch of money. So it's all, like I said, there's a compromise. That's the best word I can possibly use here. Is there's always a compromise. You can't always have the best materials, the best everything, and keep the price low. You got to give in somewhere. So anyway, I still think it's adequate. I don't want to play the steel down. I think it's a good steel. For its intended purpose, it's more than enough. I'm just saying for this specific knife, I would prefer probably a better steel. The knife is big. I mean, I can't mention that enough. It's a big old knife. You can see I don't have little hands, but I got plenty to grip onto here. This uses a disc opening system, which is just a thumb disc, very common on Emerson knives and old Benchmade knives, actually. Well, Benchmade had some Emerson production folders, but anyway, I'm not a huge fan of the thumb disc. It works. I mean, you can use it just like a regular thumb stud. I would just prefer a thumb stud. That's just me, personal preference. As far as its functionality, works fine. And as you saw there, you could still use that to flick the blade open pretty fast. This is not an assisted knife. I get that question a lot. It's just in technique. You can flick the knife out. It's a smooth knife. Lockup is actually really strong in all directions, and that's due to that nice lock. That's the Ultra Lock from Cold Steel. Now this looks very similar to the Benchmade Axis Lock. It's not. And how it works, it's actually quite different. The only thing that's the same is basically what it looks like and how you use it. It locks up top, and then to unlock it, you would pull it down. That would release the blade, and you can fold it. But to actually break it down and look at how the locking mechanisms work, they're both very different. This is contained within the blade, whereas the Benchmade Axis Lock is actually external from the blade. And it might be hard to see here. I can't really open the blade as I do this, but you can see there's the back of the blade. Now it's gonna be a little hard to do this, but if I get the right light here, there's the spine of the blade. Now as I'm opening this, you never see that lock bar. That's because it's in the tang of the knife. So it does operate differently than the Axis Lock. As far as strength, I'll never use these knives hard enough to really know what's better. I think both locks are definitely adequate. They're definitely enough for the average person. Maybe a soldier can really put these to the test. But but you know, like I said, for me, they're both more than enough lock strength for a folding knife, for my uses anyway. Is it comfortable? Yeah, it's pretty comfortable. The design here, you have a nice slow sweep, and then the finger choil is actually pretty wide. So that's accommodating to all different size fingers. You can see you can have a much bigger, wider, or fatter finger, and it would still fit in that area comfortably. So ergonomically, it's pretty good. It's comfortable. It's kind of a bulky handle. I would say if you have real small hands, maybe not the best knife for you, ergonomically speaking, but definitely would accommodate some bigger hands, or even gloves. You know, if you have an average size hand, you can operate this knife pretty well with gloves on. And that's another good good reason, I guess, to have the thumb disc as opposed to the thumb stud, because it's outside the, you know, towards the outside of the blade. So if you're using gloves, you don't have to fiddle with the thumb stud. You just kind of, if you're in that general area, you catch it to open that blade up. So I guess that's a beneficiary design. Of course, there's the Cold Steel logo. Let's check out where this is made. Taiwan. Doesn't bother me. It might bother some of you, but as I mentioned before, if the quality control is right, doesn't matter where it's coming from. But as you can see here, it is made in Taiwan. The whole knife is very tactical. You know, in general, it's all blacked out. You know, I guess scary looking to some people. So be aware of that. If you whip this out in the middle of Walmart to, I don't know, take a tag off of something, you know, be careful. You get some weird looks from people. What else can I say about this? Pocket clip. Cold steel pocket clips in general, I always found are very, very tight. I mean, really got to crank that to open it up. You could take this off and bend it out a little bit. I wouldn't really suggest it, because once you alter a pocket clip like that, it never has the same strength it initially did. It will weaken the pocket clip, but if you find it totally necessary, then, you know, so be it. The pocket clip is, it's only a tip-up carry knife, as you can see here, tip-up carry. It is swappable to left or right hand side, but it is not swappable to a tip down. So just keep that in mind as well. If you do prefer tip down, this is, again, not the knife for you. What's pretty cool here is because this is the whole theme of very heavy duty, heavy use, they actually have 5 body screws on here. Let's count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, of course, the pivot screw, which is larger. It's not necessary to have 5 screws here, but again, it's almost as if this knife was overbuilt, but that's not a bad thing. You want total strength, well, there you have it, total strength. You probably could have got away with 3 screws, you know, for the body, but, you know, that's what they wanted to do. Again, it goes along the whole theme of being very strong, very capable of some heavy use. Overall, I think it's a really good knife. It's not a great knife for me, for my uses. I'm only speaking to this is because most of what I do is light cutting chores. So to carry a heavier, larger knife like this, it's not necessary for those chores. Now, if you're talking about perhaps having your main user knife as maybe a backup self-defense weapon, that's a different story. This, of course, would function very well for a self-defense weapon, being that it is strong. It is larger. With the larger grip here, you can choke down a little bit on it. If you really hold on to that tight, you extend your reach quite a bit. So you do have some capabilities there. And obviously the clip point blade specifically, besides having pretty decent slicing ability, having that, you know, good belly, you do have an acute tip here because the clip comes down. So for penetration and stabbing, it's also a pretty good blade for that. So pretty multifunctional, multi-use knife here. You know, it's not a bad knife. I like it quite a bit. I just personally probably won't carry this again. I did carry it for about a week, a little less than a week. I think it was about maybe 5 or 6 days, and I found it to be just a little bit heavy, a little bulky, a little bit hard to use the pocket clip. Just my opinion. But overall, I still think it's a very, very good knife, and a lot of people do use them day in and day out, and they enjoy them quite a bit. As I was mentioning before, the texturing, being that there is heavy-duty texturing underneath this pocket clip, it will wear your pants out. Be aware. You're going to tear up your jeans or your cargo pants, whatever you have. It's going to wear that material away, rubbing it, taking it in and out. So just, you know, just be aware of that. That should be it. Torque screws throughout. I mean, a Torx wrench or Torx bit rather. Will you can take this knife apart if you want. You know, advise Cold Steel's website, which is www.coldsteel.com. as far as what their warranty is on this knife, if you can take it apart or not. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call these people up. I mean, not just Cold Steel, any company. You have a question about your Spyderco knife, call Spyderco. Ask them. I mean, these people are there for you. There's customer service departments for a reason. And Cold Steel is no different. You have a question about a knife, give them a call, send them an email. They'll get back to you. They're very nice customer service, from my personal experience. And they're pretty accommodating. I like them. So, Cold Steel Recon 1 in clip point plain edge blade. Big old heavy duty folder. That's about it. I appreciate you watching, as always. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.